Beware the Ides of March. Shakespeare ominously warns us in Julius Caesar. These words were a prescient warning of what was about to happen in my life. I'm the wife of David, teacher to over 100 juniors and seniors, and mother to AJ and MJ, my wonderful children, who hardly ever saw me pre-pandemic. My weekdays were spent at my school, New Heights Academy, working 10-hour days. Then I would rush off to MFA to co-facilitate a PLT, or a neighborhood school to attend a CEC 6 meeting, or Midtown to see some cool art exhibit. My weekends were divided into family and work. Saturdays, I took my kids to swim lessons, soccer classes, play dates, and museum trips, while Sundays I focused on the grading, lesson planning, and slide creation that are the life of a teacher. I was home physically, though mentally my mind was on my classes. The classic definition of a workaholic. Life was crazy busy, too busy. On March 15th, I went biking with my child AJ along the Hudson River Greenway, a rare mother-child bonding moment. And this was my last day outdoors for 101 days. Why 101 days? As a high school math teacher, I love palindromes. So much so that my now husband David and I, vegetarians who met at a barbecue, had a long engagement so we could marry in the year 2002. Initially, during the first month of the pandemic, it was fear of the unknown that kept me indoors. The basic senses of touching and breathing became fraught with danger. Watch out, you might catch COVID, and you could die. What happened after those first 30 days? A fleeting thought evolved into a goal. Spend 101 consecutive days indoors while keeping my teaching day job to bond with my family, rediscover myself, and take a necessary step back from my hectic New York City lifestyle. A homebody I am not. I am the type of teacher who works hard and plays harder. This Jersey girl came to New York City for college and never left. It was a match made in heaven. A New York City cultural butterfly, I would spend evenings and weekends attending concerts, film festivals, and Broadway shows sans children. All of the COVID shutdowns were a shock that morphed into a unique opportunity. By staying indoors for 101 days, I would be embarking on my own internal hero's journey, crossing a threshold and entering what had become an unknown world, the world of my pre-war apartment. New York City, I'll see you in 101 days. In order for my journey to be successful, other people would be required. A helper. My husband, David, to take our kids outside so they would not go stir crazy and drive me crazy. A mentor. My yoga teacher, June, who inspired me to make my remote classes more interactive and fun. And much would happen on this 101-day journey. First, temptation. At the beginning of my 101 days indoors on March 16th, I switched to virtual teaching. As a charter school teacher, I did not have a week to transition. I had a weekend. Synchronous or asynchronous teaching. Whole group instruction or office hours. Prioritize AP Calc or devote equal attention to all classes. Khan Academy or my own Zoom videos uploaded to my YouTube channel. Heaven knows there's a video out there for every AP Calc, pre-calc, and statistics topic I teach. Such decisions to make. This veteran teacher became a novice overnight, and my students became my greatest teachers. Temptation was followed by revelation. My AP Calculus student Denzel emailed me after midnight asking, due to the virus and us not having school, how are we going to be learning? Because I know you are not going to stop teaching us. Denzel's email made me reconsider and ultimately reject my asynchronous thoughts. My focus as a teacher for the past few years has been on rehumanizing education by forming deep, personal connections with my students. I realized live teaching was the best way for me to still connect. Adriana, also my AP Calculus student, was the person who first told me about Zoom. Funny thing, imagine not knowing what Zoom is. Teaching virtually caused my home and school worlds to collide. Next came the physical transformation. The rooms of my apartment became my many, mini classrooms. My dining room, a math classroom for both my own children and my students. My kitchen, the place to teach my kids home economics. My bedroom, the place to drop everything and read. And the living room, the music room to create beautiful sounds. My kids would preempt the Sharon show and tell I had planned for my students. The only Zoom bombing I experienced in the spring was my kids' stuffed animals taking over my camera and class. Then came the personal transformation. What feels a little selfish, though what I deeply treasure, is the alone time I had during those 101 days. As a parent, I rarely get alone time. I feel like I've not gotten a parenting break for more than a decade. For the first time in my life, I did both a 7-day and 30-day yoga challenge. It was awesome to turn my beloved EDM on my Sonos, do yoga in my living room, and focus on self-care. I needed that yoga because things were not all rosy during my 101-day indoor sojourn. My seniors developed a case of senioritis, a major case of senioritis, in April, and expressed their discontent about all the work I was giving them through all forms of electronic communication at all hours of the night. My own kids would bicker due to their close proximity to each other all the time. Family members of my students and personal friends passed away from COVID-19. So many things were not well for all. These disruptions made me realize that I needed to pause, breathe, and take my kids in both hands because they will not be young nor with me forever. I wish I could go back in time and make different choices that would put my kids and family always first, though alas, I cannot. Peter Gabriel singing "Accepting All I've Done and Said" at the beginning of my wedding song, "In Your Eyes," comes to mind. My oldest AJ said the best part of being home during the pandemic was the end of our busy lives and simply being together. Another lesson I learned from a child that led to my atonement. My time indoors was always intended to be finite. After 101 days, I would once again venture outside my apartment, out into the world, into my beloved New York City. I would be returning to the known world, or would I? New York City was very different than the city I last encountered on that fateful bike ride on March 15th. What city was I returning to? The city that never sleeps had finally been brought to her knees. She was quiet, reflective, and masked. What brought me outside finally was my child MJ's end-of-year school picnic in Central Park in late June. What stood out the most were the sounds: birds chirping, children laughing, and parents commiserating. My love affair with New York City was instantly rejuvenated. I'm a different person now than I was at the beginning of this 101-day journey. Now, when I close my school laptop Friday afternoon, it is not open until Monday morning. Weekends are family time, spent either playing a board game, watching a movie, or going out together on long bike rides, traversing the island of Manhattan. I no longer answer students' late-night Sunday texts. I'm not failing them, though actually teaching them not to procrastinate and become self-reliant. I still work hard during the week, giving my all to my students, though the difference is that I now make time to drop in on AJ's virtual humanities class to discuss Animal Farm and listen to MJ play piano. I'll choose hanging out with my kids over going to Tomorrowland. My kids actually recognize me again. I recognize me again. The internal journey made by oneself can be the most arduous, though it also can be the most rewarding. Amazingly, it took a worldwide pandemic and working from home to achieve work-life balance and rediscover the many treasures in my own personal life. By taking this small step back, I made a giant leap forward.